Hi, I'm Amy from the Spin City Fleece-to-Shawl team. We all met through the Spin City Meetup group organized by Donna Panner. And throughout the pandemic, we've been meeting weekly through the shutdowns on Zoom. So we can, socialize with each other, stay in touch, and spin warp together for future Fleece-to-Shawl competitions. When our team was contacted by the organizers, we talked amongst ourselves, and we discovered that we had enough warp, weft fleece, and people interested in competing to field 2 teams. So that's what we did. This is my first time competing at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and I'm very excited about it. Our team picked a garden theme for our shawl for several reasons. First, because it fits so well with a springtime competition. Second, because when we looked at the warp yarn that we had hand spun by members of the team, we had enough blue and green hand spun warp to create a shawl. And finally, because like many people over this past year, we found a lot of solace in our gardens and gardening and spending time outdoors. Donna, our weaver, will talk more about our shawl design. Our weft fleece is Corriedale from Rupert's Corriedales. It was sheared by Jeff Rupert. We used the USPS to mail our fleece and yarn back and forth to each other and did this competition in a socially distanced manner. I sampled several different prep methods for our weft yarn, and including flicking because of the crimp and the length of this fleece. But ultimately, the team decided to use hand carding for the sake of speed. I made sample cards of our warp singles and plied yarn to mail out to the team members so that we could spin consistently with each other, even though we're all miles apart. I carded the fleece on my Howard hand cards to loosen up the wool and open up the fiber so it would be easier to spin. When I carded the fleece, I carded 4 bats at a time and took the fiber off in a bat formation. And then I rolled them up together and attenuated them out into a sort of a roving to help reduce the number of joins in our singles yarn. I spun the singles on my Lendrum spinning wheel and then wound off onto storage bobbins to mail to Jasmine, our plier. Spinning with my friends and teammates has really gotten me through this pandemic year. I've been finding spinning warp really meditative and therapeutic because of the focus that's involved and the concentration that it takes to create a consistent, strong yarn. Our weekly team Zoom chats and camaraderie and friendship has also uplifted me and really kept me going throughout this entire year, including some difficult times. I would like to thank the organizers of this Maryland Sheep and Wool Fleece-to-Shawl competition for providing us with this creative outlet and also giving us an excuse to hang out together virtually. Now, I would like to introduce another one of the spinners on our team, Alexandria.
Hello, I'm Alexandria. I'm part of Spin City, the spring garden theme, and I'm one of the spinners. So I got my fiber in the mail, and I also used hand cards and did a very simple prep where I just opened the fiber. I didn't stack separate bats. Instead, I peeled each bat worth of fiber out off of the card from the front edge, a la Norman Kennedy, and was able to spin a prep that ended up being like what Amy spun, a semi-worsted, to give us a nice drapey shawl. This is my first time in Maryland Sheep and Wool, And the virtual nature of it gave me the courage to press myself out of my comfort zone. I'm not that fast of a spinner, and I'm not that technically proficient a spinner. I'm a social spinner. So I spun to my highest standard, which is matching Amy. I've always been impressed with her ability to be technical as she spins, to know exactly how many wraps per inch she's getting, and I'm more, as I said, social about my spinning. I want to be around my friends, but it is good to push ourselves out of our comfort zones every once in a while. I'm really excited about the spring theme, the spring garden. This was a long winter. I think it started in 2019. Last year I couldn't garden, so this year I'm planning on every single possible thing that I could ever do in a garden happening. And I love the possibilities of a garden before you start digging in the spring, when you're sure that this is the year where everything will grow, everything will flower, everything will fruit. You're going to eat like a king. You're going to have bowers of flowers everywhere. Maybe it won't happen once reality sets in, but for the moment, I just love that feeling that this is my time. I'm gonna pass the mic over to Jasmine.
Thanks, Alexandria. So, hi, I'm Jasmine. This is also my first Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, which is very exciting. I unfortunately always have to work the weekend of the festival, so I never get to go. So I was the plier for this team. And so I spun a little bit of the yarn as well, but mostly got all of the yarn from Amy and Alexandria. And what I did was I took their yarn and I then spun it in the opposite direction that it was spun. So it twisted on each other and made us a much stronger yarn. And so I've been plying for the team for a few years now. I enjoy it because I enjoy being a bit of the quarterback for the team. So I also carded on Howard hand cards. I'm spinning on an Ashford Traveler, which I've had for probably about 7 to 8 years. I actually learned how to spin from Donna Panner, who is our weaver, who I'm going to toss to really soon. And I learned how to I started spinning probably in the winter and had bought a spinning wheel by the summer. So I drank the Kool-Aid really quick. And I've gone down the rabbit hole and I'm never coming back, and I love it. So yeah, I think definitely getting to hang out with my friends has helped me get through all of this. And I'm glad to have gotten to work and kind of develop my skills as everything has kind of continued from everything that Donna taught me so many years ago. So I'm going to throw it to Donna, who's our weaver. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about our shawl.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hi, I'm Donna Panner, and I'm the weaver for the Spin City Fleece-to-Shawl team. I've actually competed in the Maryland Sheep and Wool competition before, but always as a spinner. This is my first time weaving in the competition, so I'm really excited. And the fact that we're doing it virtually allows me to weave on my HF loom, which is not portable, so that provided me with a great opportunity. So Jasmine handed off the plied yarn to me, which I wound onto weaving bobbins to fit into my shuttle and weave the shawl. I took the yarn that we talked about before from our warp bank that was hand spun and hand dyed by different members of the team. And in green and blue colors. And I added some bits of brightly colored fiber to the green warp to represent flowers. And I added some bits of white fiber to the blue warp to represent clouds to coordinate with our garden themed shawl. So the pattern I chose was from the Weaver's Book of 8 Shaft Patterns. And I chose a twill pattern that highlights the warp yarn, since everybody did such a beautiful job with the dyeing and the spinning. The pattern also looks like little flowers, so in keeping with our garden theme. I slayed the reed at 10 ends per inch at 22.5 inches. And I wove the shawl to wet finish at least 70 inches with 5 inches of fringe on either end. I started weaving a few years ago. I actually started all my fiber arts, my love of fiber arts, at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival several years ago, when I bought my first drop spindle and some wool. And I thought it was just going to be like a little do it once in a while hobby. And that do it once in a while hobby now takes up an entire studio in my house. And I have 4 floor looms, a rigid heddle loom, and 5 spinning wheels. So there you go. But I really have been enjoying during the pandemic our weekly Zoom meetings with the spinning group, because it gives you something to look forward to and lets you socialize without actually having to come in contact with people. And actually, you don't even have to leave your house. And it's also enabled some other members who don't regularly get to attend our meetings to be able to attend, because you don't have to, it doesn't have to be in proximity to your house, or it doesn't have to be necessarily when you're able to make the meeting. People show up for a few minutes, they show up for the whole meeting, but it's really nice. It gives you something to look forward to, and especially when you're so isolated and everything just kind of seems kind of bleak. You have this one spark in the week that kind of gets you going. I would like to thank the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival for making this competition virtual, giving us the opportunity to compete where it didn't look like we were going to be able to do that this year. So thank you, and good luck to everybody, to all the other teams.